Good day and welcome to the May 18th Carlisle Community Forum, which is our monthly television show to let you know a little bit about some of what's going on at the Carlisle COA, and also to introduce an important speaker that we hope will bring you some information that you find helpful. So today we have a number of guests, and we're going to start first with our brand new director, Joan Ingersoll, and we would like to welcome her to our community forum and also welcome her to Carlisle. So Joan, would you like to say hi?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for that welcome, Angela. This is officially my second week as director of the COA, and it's been a pleasure to meet the people in town via Zoom and some of the staff in person. Prior to this, I worked for about a year as the assistant director in Lincoln at the COA there. And that followed a pretty lengthy career in human services, where I've been involved with nonprofits, helping people with disabilities, people with mental health issues, people with addiction and homelessness. So I really entered the sort of senior services world about a year ago and have loved it. And I'm really excited to continue this work in Carlisle and, look forward to being able to meet people in person and to make those connections, not through a computer screen. But I'm delighted to be part of this forum today, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, Joan. So since we're all going through a very difficult time with COVID-19, we asked Chief Fisher, who is our Chief of Police and the head of our LAPC, or Local Emergency Planning Committee, to give a little update and tell us what's going on in Carlisle.
Thanks very much, Angela, and hello all. So just to let folks know about what the LAPC does. So the Local Emergency Planning Commission in Carlisle works during an emergency, which of course we're in right now, to make sure that residents' needs are being met and town business is being done, and that we think about and plan for any eventual emergency that might arise out of this. So what this looks like right now is we meet initially back in mid-March. We started meeting 3 times a week. That's lessened to 2 times a week, and starting next week it'll be 1 time a week. So people that wear a lot of different hats in Carlisle. So important partners in Carlisle are obviously COA has a seat at the Local Emergency Planning Commission, the fire chief, the town administrator, the representative from Board of Health, who right now obviously is served by the director, Fantasia. And then we have Lori Eckler, who you get to hear from later. And so Lori's work and some of the work of other people on the LAPC has mostly arisen out of the drive to make sure that during this emergency that we meet people's needs in Carlisle. So we'll spend most of the meeting talking about kind of where we are. So for example, what we're doing at the police department to make sure that our members are staying safe while also meeting the needs of folks in Carlisle, how we respond to emergencies. So most of the LAPC meetings start out with very important news in our health world. So the health of the residents of Carlisle, and I'm not going to try to steal any of Linda Fantasia's thunder, but she normally goes first because that's kind of what's got us to where we are. So what the LAPC is working on right now is a midterm planning for our town. So early, the LAPC was mostly focused on ensuring that we had things like, do we have protective gear for all of our firefighters and police officers and people from the Board of Health and people that need to do business in Carlisle? Do they have all the emergency gear they need? Do we have an infrastructure that if something happened, catastrophic, if Carlisle had experienced a spike in cases, but which leads me to my next point. So that some of that early planning that was done, I have to think it helped our residents, because we actually, for a town our size, have had relatively few cases. Unfortunately, we still have them, which is not a good thing, but for a town our size, we've had relatively few. So that's the early plan. The other thing that happened during early planning is we really encouraged residents to keep themselves safe and also planning for the safety of those around them. And I think from driving around Carlisle, from being in Carlisle, from seeing how Carlisle residents have responded, we won. We did not won. We did really well with this. I know Linda Fantasia is not going to be happy until the number is 0. So she might not even smile during this meeting because she's always looking for 0, and she's never happy unless every resident of Carlisle is safe and healthy. So all that you can do to make Linda's world better will make all of us on the LAPC happy. So, but seriously, keeping that in mind, folks in Carlisle have done a fantastic job. Now we're in the midterm of planning. So so for instance, tonight we have the town caucus. So the LAPC has worked to plan a safe town caucus so that people that fill important board positions and elected positions in Carlisle can do their jobs. And so we're going to do that tonight. And the other thing we're working on planning is when we have a town meeting, what's that going to look like? How can we work to keep that safe? When we have elections, what can we do to keep that safe? And then importantly, how can we ensure that town hall and the functions of our town keep going? So for those of you sitting at home, keep an eye to this because this is what we're working on right now. And then we also have been working on long-term planning. What would it be like? What is life like here in the new normal in Carlisle? What would it be like if there is not an immunization for a significant period of time? And really ensuring that the town functions, not just what's done in town hall, but the town functions can be carried through. So I think I'm trying to just kind of give you an overview of what the LAPC does, but also importantly, where we are at this point in time as our state and our town look to expand services and, using the words of others, open up. Because I see that in Carlisle as being a gradual thing, focused primarily on 2 things simultaneous: ensuring that our residents are safe while their needs are met, and ensuring that our town employees and volunteers are safe as we open up. So I want to let folks know that we also look for input. So if you pop onto a selectmen's meeting, we have an LAPC portion of a selectmen's meeting. And if you've got feedback to give us, we're anxious to hear it. What's life like where you sit? How is this emergency planning helping you or holding you back from what you need to get done? So I really appreciate this opportunity to talk, and I'm going to stay on in case anything pops up that we need to weigh in on from an LAPC standpoint. But if I could leave you with one thought, my friends in Carlisle, and that is thank you for all you've done to keep yourselves and others safe. And we look forward to doing this work together to make sure that our town is in the best position possible to deal with this virus and this emergency that we're in right now. So I'd like to thank my friends here on this call. I would especially like to thank Angela and Joan for this opportunity to address Carlisle seniors through this method. Thanks all.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we're going to hear from Linda Fantasia, who's the Board of Health agent for us. And Linda has been working tirelessly to make sure that we're safe and that people that have been exposed have the best information, and those that needed contacting because they may have been exposed have been contacted. So Linda.
Hi, everyone. I think Chief Fisher gave a great summary of where Carlisle is right now. And he is correct that our numbers are good in comparison to other towns. And that says that our residents are taking this seriously and doing what they need to do. Currently, we have 11 confirmed cases and 7 probable. Difference between a confirmed, they would be a lab diagnosed confirmation, and a probable might be clinically diagnosed, but we're treating them both as having COVID. And I don't, they called it a novel coronavirus because it was novel. It hadn't been seen before. And in many ways, that's made our response novel too. We've had to learn as we go along how to respond, how to protect our residents, what needs to be done. And I think everyone knows it's spread by, coughing, sneezing, droplets. It can be on surfaces, but that's less the way it would be spread. So social distancing, avoiding close contact with other people has become an important part of prevention. And older adults are more at risk, or people with chronic medical conditions. So Carlisle's primary focus from the very beginning was, what can we do to help our seniors stay healthy throughout this? And I think the seniors as a demographic have been fantastic. They've been staying home. They've been making use of resources such as the Carlisle Neighbor Response Team that Laurie will talk about. And I know it's been difficult. It's been difficult for all of us. And but that's the way to go. And it may look like we're getting towards the end. Things are improving. They're now talking about vaccines. That doesn't mean you lighten up or become less restrictive with these protective measures. It's still important to maintain the social distancing. If you do have to go out, you need to wear a face cover. And of course, washing your hands constantly. It's just amazing how many times you don't think and go and touch your face. And if you've, picked up a virus somewhere and then you touch your mouth or eyes or nose, it's a quick way to spread it. The other things, it was mentioned about what the state is doing is they're focusing on rapid identification of cases, of positive cases. And they have arranged with a private medical firm to do what is called contact tracings. And that means that if there's an identified confirmed case, that person has to go into isolation for 10 days and have cleared the major symptoms. So it could be even longer than 10 days. In addition, any close contacts that are identified by the public health nurse that would be doing the case investigation, those people have to go into quarantine for 14 days. And it actually starts 2 days prior to symptoms. So you can be contagious 2 days before you even show any symptoms. So that's important to understand. That's why just staying away from someone who looks sick is not enough, because they can be sick and not be having any symptoms. So then the way we follow up on that is close contacts will get a call from, it's called CTC, Mass COVID Follow-up, and they will be provided information on symptoms to watch for and who to contact if they start to develop the disease. So by keeping this to a small, confined group of people, we're hoping that it'll stop the spread. And it has been working. So we want to emphasize that. A lot of people are interested in, should I get tested? Currently, testing is not generally available. If you have symptoms, you can call your doctor and they will arrange for you to go to a local testing site. There are some private testing sites. CVS, I believe, is setting them up, but you still need to call ahead for an appointment. So it's just not a general stop by whenever you want. And the use of the testing, it's uncertain actually what that will tell you. It might tell you you're negative on that particular day, but that doesn't mean that you won't come down with COVID at some later date. So the whole idea of who should be tested, when should they be tested, the state is still working out the guidance for that. And I'm sure everyone's hearing that on the news too. So the other things that I want to emphasize are, well, looking for symptoms: fever, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, extreme fatigue, and also lately loss of taste or smell. Those aren't considered major symptoms, but should be reported to your physician. And come the fall and winter, we may be looking at sponsoring clinics. And even if there isn't a vaccine that we can have a public clinic for COVID, I still want to emphasize the importance of going to the flu clinics and getting your flu shots, because ruling out influenza, if you were to get sick over the winter, if you've already had your influenza shot, then that helps the person diagnosing you to understand what could be the cause, and they would be more apt to look at COVID. So there are things in the pipeline that the Board of Health is working on. Board of Health is also there. We have a lot of information on our website. I know the town has provided a lot of resources for seniors, from delivering food and pharmacies. Another thing that has come up is if seniors need help with telemedicine, instead of going to visit your doctor, maybe he's doing it through telemedicine. In other words, using a computer to have your virtual office visit. If you need help with that, reach out to the COA or the Board of Health, and we'll help you set it up and make those arrangements. So Carlisle is a wonderful town. It's built on a lot of volunteerism, and I've just been amazed at how willing residents are, all ages, from high school on, to reach out to their neighbors and other community members to, what can I do to help? And so I think that's great. Don't hesitate to call. People are happy to get the calls and happy to help in any way they can. And I'll stay around in case, I don't know if someone else has questions, or I'd like to hear the other presentations too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. So as we started all this with the LAPC, it became clear that we wanted to keep the seniors as safe as possible. And the COA started to put together a volunteer effort because, as Linda said, we had lots of people come forward and say, I'm willing to help. And it became very clear very early on that we needed somebody to run this. And Chief Soros suggested that Lori Eckler was like the chief of all volunteers. So Lori and I talked, and Lori stepped forward, and she's been running an amazing team of people that are helping our seniors. And we talk frequently, and I couldn't be happier to have her support. And all the seniors, if you haven't met her yet, please thank her if you ever see her out in the street, because she's going so far above and beyond to help everybody. Lori.
So first of all, I thought I should put this on because most of the seniors might only recognize me with a mask on. But thank you. So that volunteer effort that Angela referred to is called the Carlisle Neighbor Response Team. And it's made up of a group of Carlisle residents. And as Linda said, there are high school students, there are college students, and then there are other adults who are here to provide support to really anyone in Carlisle, you know, whether they're immune compromised, have a chronic illness, maybe have special needs, or are 60+ years of age who need some extra help during the state of emergency. And the services we provide include grocery shopping. So if you have a list, we'll provide you with a templated grocery list, and we will shop for you, and we will deliver the groceries to your front doorstep or wherever you would like them delivered. We will do pharmacy runs for you. We have people that are willing to walk your pets for you, assuming they're tame pets and, you know, not ferocious. We have people who will run to the post office for you. And we have people that would do runs to the transfer station for you. So a variety of volunteers. I think we have 40 volunteers signed up. We've been trying to match neighbors with neighbors. So hopefully the volunteer you have is someone in your general neighborhood. And we're also trying to provide you with a neighbor that can sustain this help. So, you know, we're planning to offer this service for as long as we need to. Right now we're planning through the summer. And we, you know, we're here. So, you know, a lot of people have taken advantage of our services. I know there's other seniors and people in need of help in Carlisle that have reached out to their, you know, already reached out to neighbors. For those people, you know, we're here for extra support. So I've told some people who've said, yes, my neighbor's already getting groceries for me. I said, let us know if your neighbor goes on vacation or if there's something else that you need us to help you with. We're willing to do that for you. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. It's been great. I'm glad so many people have taken advantage of this. You now see my face. You know we're friendly. We're here to help you. There's no cost for our service, so we will, you know, we'll pick up your list. Most often, seniors will drop off the template list. They fill out the list, and then they'll leave it in a bag with their, you know, their method of payment. Again, at their preferred location, and we'll pick it up. We'll go to the store. We'll come back. We'll bring them back. Often we bring them back their list. Their receipt and their method of payment is returned to them after we've sanitized it from being at the store. And all of our volunteers wear masks and gloves, and, you know, take all safety protocols necessary to keep our seniors and others safe.
And Lori, you're also providing information on how the senior can unpack their groceries safely as well.
Yep, we have a protocol sheet that we put in the bags on the first delivery to let you know how to sort of decontaminate your groceries. We also, hopefully on June 1st, the libraries will be providing some drop-off, some pick-up and drop-off services for books. So as soon as we have more information about that, that will be provided as well, and our volunteers will be doing that. And then we have some additional students who are doing some lawn care, raking, weeding for our seniors as well.
And we're still looking for more of those students because I expect that more people will be calling asking for yard help. So if you need yard help or something else, if you're struggling in any way, please call the COA, whether we're in the office or not. We are watching our phone. We're there for you. We're doing whatever we can. And Lori's team are also delivering masks. So we've had a number of lovely volunteers come forward and make some great homemade masks. And if you need them, you just call, leave your name and number on the COA line, which is 978-371-2895. And we will get the message to Lori, and one of her volunteers will drop off the masks that you need. So we just want you to know we're here, and we want to be supportive of you. And in talking about being supportive, we know that both Deborah Bentley and Bob Zog are trying to not only be supportive of Carlisle as a town, but of our greater state and country and the world by doing things for energy conservation. So both Bob and Deborah are joining us today as part of our regularly scheduled community forum, and they're going to be talking about the Energy Task Force.
Thank you very much, Angela.
Thank you. I'll go. We're going to do a presentation of their slide presentation we gave earlier on before the lockdown and 2 occasions in the town. just to try and update people on what we've been doing. And so I guess this is a non-COVID segment of the presentation. This is a project that Bob and I have been working on for 2 years. What we had to do was work out what the goal was, how much energy Carlisle was using, so that we could work out how we could reduce the amount of energy and carbon emissions. So as I was saying, the Energy Task Force was formed about 10 years ago, and a lot has changed in 10 years, especially to do with sustainability. So we asked the Board of Selectmen to revise our mission statement to actually reflect what the Energy Task Force had evolved into doing, which was, on top of looking at just focusing on the municipal energy use and green communities, we'd also moved on to and expanded into community-wide renewable energy use. As I mentioned, Bob and I had to establish what were our goals, what was our energy use, so that we can actually create a pathway or have the community decide what the pathway would be, that we would actually reduce our energy use, our carbon emissions, and save the, have a sustainable future. Do you want to go to the next slide, Bob? We're having it. Can you move to the next? Oh, no, next slide. There we go. So the Energy Task Force is actually one of the committees that brings money into the town. We have, through the Green Community Grants, which is set up by Massachusetts, we've brought in $821,000. We also get incentives from the utility companies as well. So we get, whenever we apply for a grant, there's usually some sort of additional money we can get from the utility companies. This obviously has reduced our energy use, but it's also made many of our buildings more pleasant to inhabit. We spent a lot of time and energy trying to improve the town hall, and hopefully the end users, the employees appreciate our work. We've had 2 solar challenges in the past, and also about 18, Bob will correct me, but a year ago, maybe, we had the Heat Smart challenge, which was for changing people off fossil fuel onto renewable electricity through heat pumps. Our big project at the moment is the solar array that's going on at the school. Hopefully that's just about to start on site, and that will bring in a substantial amount of money to the town over 20 years. But we also we do a lot of data diving, and we look into where are we using energy. And one of the interesting places is we found out we were actually, by changing our trucking location from Westboro, this is for our recycling, from Westboro to Billerica, we actually reduced the DPW fuel consumption by 16%, which, it's not, when it's diesel fuel, it's the emissions you're really looking at rather than the cost of the fuel, because diesel fuel is not a nice thing to have in the world, or diesel fuel emissions. So this was quite important because it improves the air quality for surrounding towns. Do you want to go to the next slide? So in 2016, scientists announced we have reached the Anthropocene epoch. This means that human beings are basically affecting the outcome of the planet rather than something else. Every month, we are informed of our carbon dioxide emissions from a laboratory in an observatory in Hawaii. This is just showing you how much it's gone up from 2002 to 2017. It peaks in May. So this data was actually for January. It will be more in May, but it then comes down again. You can see it's like a COVID peak, sadly. hopefully not. We won't go on like that. Anyway, the other interesting information is as we data dive and we understand things more, at one point they said we needed to reduce, the maximum temperature we could have rise was 2 degrees centigrade in the world. That's an average. But recently they've worked out that, like, if we effectively lock down a bit earlier and aim for 1.5 degrees, the outcome will be much, much better for the world. And there's a fantastic little video from the BBC that explains this much better than I ever can. And we've left a link on it at the bottom of the slide so people can link on that. The problem we have in Massachusetts is it's not going to be 2 degrees that we rise by. It's going to be probably 3 or 3.5. This is just to do with the fact it's an average. It's like, it's to do with the currents, the way currents work, the way they expect the winds to change and the climate to change. So we have a higher hill to climb than in other parts of the world. So it is actually it is something we really need to focus on. And the state does an excellent job, actually. We are one of the best states when it comes to renewable energy and reducing our carbon emissions. But there's still a lot to do. And this is why we went on to do this study that we were talked about. Can you go on to the next slide? Sorry. Of creating a zero emissions pathway. So Bob, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you, Debbie. So the Energy Task Force just recently issued the final version of our report called Path to Zero Emissions, Creating a Sustainable Carlisle. This report's available on the town website on the Energy Task Force page. And the purpose of the report is primarily to inform Carlisle's decision about whether we want to adopt goals to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So today we're going to talk about some of the highlights of the report, and we're also going to encourage everyone to participate in Carlisle's master plan, which is in process right now, because that is the place where we would establish these goals if we choose to set them. So we'll go through a couple slides on our overall findings in terms of Carlisle's greenhouse gas emissions. This first slide, first of all, I want to point out this is for the year 2017. It'll become apparent in a minute why we're picking this base year of 2017. But our total emissions are about 49,000 tons of greenhouse gases annually. Not surprisingly, we're a residential community, so about 88% of those emissions are associated with our homes and our vehicles for residential use. Another 4% is associated with our municipal buildings and municipal vehicles. And this 4% includes our share of the Concord Carlisle High School emissions. Quite interestingly, a full 3% of our emissions are associated solely with the incineration of our municipal waste. So our trash that's not recycled is burned and it emits greenhouse gases. Institutional and commercial buildings constitute about 3%, including vehicles, and about 2% is associated with agriculture. Now based on the data we've been able to get, we feel pretty confident in most of these numbers. The commercial and institutional number has a little bit of uncertainty. The agricultural number, quite honestly, could be half this or twice this. Most of these emissions in the agricultural section are associated with cattle, and the emissions estimates for cattle vary quite a bit. But ballpark, we're pretty confident overall that this 49,000 is about right. So another way to look at this is to break it down by fuel use, and transportation fuels, gasoline and diesel, are about 43% of our total emissions. In 2017, that's important, it was about 18% for electricity. That number's changed a bit now. Natural gas is about 17%, and this actually includes leakage of natural gas, which actually is a significant component of our emissions. Heating oil is about 14%, propane is about 2%, and of course we carry through the waste incineration here, and the other is really the agricultural emissions plus a little bit of wood burning in the residential sector. So we got finished with doing our little inventory of Carlisle's greenhouse gas emissions, feeling pretty proud of ourselves. And then we realized that maybe we didn't include everything. What we've looked at so far in the first two slides were the direct emissions that we have associated with the fuels we use, and also electricity and trash incineration. As it turns out, there's something called embedded emissions, and these are the emissions associated with all the products and services that we use all the time. And most of these emissions occur outside the boundaries of Carlisle, but they are very substantial, and in this case, they make up really about 2/3 of our total. So our total emissions, if we include embedded emissions, are around 147,000 tons per year. And these embedded emissions examples include internet, computer server farms, commercial buildings like retail stores, factories, bridges and dams and other infrastructure, and of course, airplane travel, trucking, and shipping. So on this slide, we're going to do some comparisons to Massachusetts averages, and to orient you a bit here, the brown bar on the left side, the 28.5 tons, that is the per capita emissions for Carlisle. So in other words, we took 147,000 tons and divided by the number of residents we have, put it on a per capita basis. And it turns out that that number compared to the Massachusetts average is about 43% higher. So we're running about 40% or more higher than the average Massachusetts resident on average per person. And these blue bars makes a few comparisons to some other metrics, and it turns out that these emissions comparisons are not surprising, considering the fact that per occupant, our homes are 45% bigger, and we drive about 40% more. And of course, we also have higher incomes in Carlisle on average. So one thing to point out here is we're not making these comparisons to be judgmental. We're simply trying to put these numbers in context so that they're a little easier to understand. A question we sometimes get is, with all the trees in Carlisle, don't we sequester a lot of carbon through our forests and woodlands? So if we were to account for that in these numbers, we would reduce our annual emissions by about 7%. But Massachusetts has a lot of wooded area, especially in the western part of the state. We have a lot of rural communities. If you do the same thing for the Massachusetts numbers, it would reduce the Massachusetts emissions by about 6%. So it doesn't change that comparison to Massachusetts averages very much. So in 2018, something very important happened in Carlisle. We switched over to a community choice power supply program. And through this program, most residents in Carlisle, whether they realize it or not, are getting 100% renewable electricity for their homes and businesses. If the only way you're not getting 100% renewable is if you were already under contract with a separate supplier in July of 2018, or you opted out of this default offering. This step alone reduced our electricity-related emissions by 77% and reduced our overall community emissions by 14%. So this was an important step for Carlisle. If we choose to set goals in Carlisle, there are two logical options that we could follow. One is to align with the Massachusetts Global Warming Solutions Act, which currently calls for an 80% emissions reduction by 2050. Now, based on a current recent determination, that number is going to go up to at least 85%. It could go higher than that. So that's in the process of being changed. The other option is to align with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is based on more recent scientific data. And that calls for net zero emissions by 2050. Here we're suggesting perhaps a 95% target might be a little bit of a hedge on that. But regardless of which option we choose here, the way we'd approach this is really pretty much the same. And the four basic things we need to do: number one, we need to improve our energy efficiency through weatherization. And this really means making our homes and buildings better air sealing and better insulation of homes and buildings, and other measures to reduce the cooling and heating loads for our homes and buildings. The next step is to electrify. This means switching from fossil fuels to electricity. That includes not only our homes and buildings, but also our vehicles. Of course, we would continue our shift to 100% renewable electricity, and we would also promote more sustainable behaviors. Examples might include driving less, flying less, and even tweaking our diet a little bit to consume less meat and dairy products. Some examples of initiatives we might undertake. Volunteer-led initiatives might include just promoting good community spirit, holding information and education programs, and promotional programs like some that Debbie mentioned earlier, the Heat Smart program and the two solarized solar programs we had previously. Coaching is another effective way where if one resident has experience with the technology, they can help their friends and neighbors understand whether that technology is right for them. On the municipal side, we certainly would want to improve the decision-making process we have to make them more sustainable and consider impacts of carbon emissions in our decisions. We would want to apply for more government grants to leverage those resources. We can improve our infrastructure. Examples might be more electric vehicle charging stations and making the community more biker-friendly and pedestrian-friendly. Of course, we'd want to continue our community choice power supply program with 100% renewable electricity as the default. And we may even want to open up a community solar program so that people who want to have solar but for some reason can't do it at their homes could actually participate directly in owning solar technologies. We may also want to look at our bylaws and ordinances to see if there's things we could do to promote sustainable behaviors. It's the opinion of the Energy Task Force that to adopt such goals and pursue them in a meaningful way will require resources. We're going to need a sustainability director to do this. And we just understand that it's a comprehensive effort to do this is more than can be sustained by a group of volunteers. We certainly need a lot of volunteer help to help the sustainability director achieve these kinds of goals, but it's not enough in itself to have volunteers. It'll also require some changes in our municipal staff and how they make decisions. Some training will be involved. But the fact is that we are currently missing out on opportunities to leverage grants to help us. And we also need to put in some of our own money to be eligible for most of those grant opportunities. And we're seeing other towns, even some smaller towns, starting to hire sustainability directors. So there's some examples out there we can emulate. The table here just outlines a rough preliminary cost estimate. We certainly would need to cover the salary and benefits for a sustainability director. The range here includes from half-time to full-time, depending on how we might want to go. We've included some other staff that maybe need some support staff for that director, and also some training for existing staff. And we may have some expenses. So we're thinking in a total of about $125,000 to $250,000 per year would be the estimated cost. And timing is really important. Obviously, if we want to adopt emissions goals, they really need to reflect the consensus of the community. This is something that the community needs to be behind, the community needs to support. We're in the master plan process now. It's been delayed a bit, but it is going forward behind the scenes and it will continue. And if we're going to establish goals, they need to be in this master plan. So if you're of the mind that this is something that Carlisle should do, it's important that you make your opinions known to the Master Plan Steering Committee, and it's important that you encourage your friends and neighbors to do the same. Because realistically, we're not going to get another opportunity. If we're unable to incorporate emissions goals in this master plan, it's hard to imagine how we'll have the wherewithal to do it next year or the year after. And even if we could, every year we lose is precious because we are already, as a society, behind on attacking our emissions. So that's our message today. I thank you very much for the opportunity to present. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them at this time.
Bob or Deborah, I know that most of us benefited from the community choice power supply, not only in terms of it reducing the amount of energy, but it also reduced the amount of money that most people spent on their per kilowatt hour for electricity. Where are we now? I think it ends. Does it end this December, that program?
So where we are, we started in July of 2018 under a 30-month contract. So that contract will be up at the end of December of this year. And Tim Goddard, our town administrator, has appointed a small working group. I'm one of the members who is helping him investigate options for the new contract. And we'll certainly work with our current broker to see what they can offer. We'll also look at a couple of additional brokers just as part of our due diligence, see whether they can make a better offer. We're going to look into whether we should expand the number of options available. Some people have expressed interest in buying their renewable energy locally, so that's one thing we'll consider. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes.
Terrific, thank you. And are you looking for new members in the Energy Task Force?
Yes, we are. We are currently a committee of 4 people, and we should really be at least 6 or 7. We are welcome to have lots of people of different abilities. In the past, we've had a lot of engineers on board, but in fact, a lot of our work is actually more to do with the community now, and to do with looking at data and just tracking data and making, seeing where we should be going or who we should be advising on what they should be doing. And there is some report writing. So it's really, you don't have to be an engineer, you just have to be passionate about the environment and the future, that's all.
So thank you both for coming today. We're going to move on to Jean and have her tell us a little bit what's going on with the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Sure. Well, as you all know, the Friends are the fundraising arm of the COA, and we're always grateful for the generosity and support of our fellow citizens here in Carlisle, but even more so now during this pandemic and the increased demands on the COA. Your donations to the Friends help fund so many things that the COA provides for our seniors. You probably are very aware, food and fuel assistance and deliveries, meals, also masks and so many other things. It's just hard to name them all. But it's important to know that the COA is available always to help you with all of your issues during this difficult time. And one thing too that needs to be mentioned is that normally the Friends have their annual meeting this time of year where we get together and celebrate right now more than 25 years of Friends helping the COA. This time that we usually get together, we miss, and there will be a note coming in the mail soon from the Friends reminding you that even though we couldn't get together this year, we're still there, and we want to thank everybody for their generosity and encourage them to donate if they haven't yet to the Friends. And donations can be sent to Post Office Box 38 in Carlisle. So again, we're very, very fortunate to have the generosity and support of this very vital part of our town. So thanks to everyone in town. And we know, I just have to say, we had some friends who got a call from the COA. They were stunned to have a well-being check. So I think it's important to know too that even though the office is closed down, the calls are going out, and basically people like to hear that. So thanks to Angela and Joan and the rest of the staff for keeping us all aware of what's happening.
Thank you, Jean. As people know, our budget for the COA is extremely small, and we really depend on the Friends for not only our ability to help seniors, but also pay for our programming and some of our transportation expenses. And without them, we wouldn't be able to do nearly as much as we do. And without them, we definitely couldn't help anybody who comes forward to us and says, you know, I can't pay for this order of groceries, or I can't pay for this prescription, or I have to have something done and I can't do it. And so not only do we have the Friends, but we work with the Carlisle Neighbor Fund and many other organizations like fuel assistance and food assistance. So if you are finding yourself in trouble, please do give us a call, and we will do our best to get you the best resources available for you. And since we aren't doing too many programs in person, we just wanted to let you know, for those of you that get our emails, we have been doing a number of digital format kinds of programs. Chuck and Jean are hosting our senior moments, which used to be held at Burns, which are now held online. And we also have a new coffee that is being chaired by Shishi von Eigen. And so she's doing it on a Thursday. And we have our French group continuing, our knitting group, our Reiki is even being done offline. All of our exercise teachers have put their classes online, and we have even distant Reiki and poetry. And so all those things are going to be listed in the hard copy newsletter, which hopefully you'll be getting in the next week or two, and are also on the town website. You can see our newsletter there. So we're hoping that people realize that, as Jean said, we may not always be all of us in the office because we can't be 6 feet apart and be in our little office, but we're all working from home and all available to you. So all you have to do is call and leave a message. We are continuing with our Shine appointments. We're delivering medical equipment. We're starting to get some requests for transportation for critical doctor's appointments. And there's people like Chuck available to help you if you need training on how to learn the technology. We have another volunteer who helps us with equipment, and he's putting together quite a bit of equipment. So if you don't have a laptop or you don't have a piece of equipment that you need, give us a call. He may have it already ready. And I know I got a bill from him this morning for some parts he bought to retrofit some of the things that we either are using or can use as loaners. And so I'll be, you know, I'm sure that the Friends will be subsidizing all those payments. So if you need a piece of equipment, let us know. That's there for you. We have volunteers who will help you, train you over the phone on how to use your phone, and also train you on how to use your computer. So we're trying to be there for all of your needs. And if we can't do it, we'll try to find you the right resource. And does anybody else have anything they'd like to add before we sign off? Because I think we're getting close to our time.
That's it.
Okay. So on behalf of the Carlisle Council on Aging, we'd like to thank you all. We'd like to welcome Joan again, and we're thrilled to have her leading us into the future. And we'd like to thank Debbie and Bob for all their work on the Energy Task Force. and for Lori's amazing efforts in terms of the volunteers, and for Jean and Chuck and all the support that they and our friends give us. With no further ado, would like to say good afternoon and wish you well. Keep washing those hands, stay 6 feet apart, wear your face masks, and we hope to hear from you and see you all soon. Thank you and good afternoon.